Now we're going to talk about what's been termed the biggest shake-up in the national curriculum for over 20 years.
It's been announced that primary school children as young as 5 will receive lessons in sex education, and that's going to include same-sex relationships, transgender families and staying safe online.
Now, as well as that, for the first time, parents will lose the right to opt their children out of secondary school sex education classes. To talk about this, Peter Tatchell, a human rights activist who believes that it's about time all of this happened, and Caroline Farrow. Caroline is a mum, she's a journalist who feels that it takes away a parent's right to teach their child. My problem with that, though, Caroline, is do parents really teach their children anything?
Many of them do, and I think you exemplify here what the problem is. It's a shift of power from the parents to the state, and we're saying, well, actually, parents aren't good enough. I think most parents are good enough, and I think by imposing this via the national curriculum, you're actually taking this power away from the parents, and you're imposing and impinging on family rights. I think most parents know their children well enough, and they know what is age appropriate. And if we look at any one class of children, you're going to have children who have different emotional ages. I know this from my own children. You know, they mature at different stages, and what might be right for one child may not be right for another. And anecdotally, you know, I'm hearing from a lot of children and families that they find sex education actually abusive because it impinges on their natural boundaries, and they feel uncomfortable.
Has she a point there, Peter?
Well, we know that the vast majority of parents say that they don't feel confident or competent to teach about sex and relationships to their own children. And the vast majority also want the schools to teach these issues because they don't feel able to do so. In addition, all the surveys of young people themselves say they want to know more to how to protect themselves.
How young?
And it's all
that seems to be, whenever we talk about this, Peter, one of the issues, a lot of parents that contact us, it's not so much that they don't want their children to be taught sex education, it's the age. And when they start talking about primary school children, age 5, being taught about sex...
No, that's not true. That's not going to happen.
They worry that it's the age, it's too young.
The new guidelines, it will only be about relationships at primary level. So nothing about sex for primary kids.
But that includes same-sex relationships.
But it's all about love and families and relationships, not about sex. So it's about trying to reduce the level of bullying faced by LGBT kids in schools so that they feel confident and affirmed.
The thing is,
I think Peter has a really good point here, because the more we're immersed in something, the more we see and understand other people and other things and situations, the less we are likely to be in our own little world. And I'm just going back to that whole bullying situation. Information is power, is it not?
Well, I would also go back to Peter's point. If parents aren't empowered, then they should be empowered to do so. You know, my phrase is talk to your children about sex before someone else does. And of course, you know, no school should be condoning bullying or ignoring bullying. But I think if a school gets its primary ethos right, which is about compassion, which is about respect, we live in a very diverse society. Nobody's denying that. You know, I think of, say, the school that my children go to, and it is very, very diverse. And what children should be taught is kindness, respect, tolerance. Some people
that's all very nice, but they still have to know about sex education and relationships.
Why do they?
There's so much available.
The thing is, if you take a
now.
5-year-old, right? Let's say a child in reception or year 1, they're age 5 or 6. Now they're not going to be themselves embarking on relationships for at least another 10 years' time.
But maybe
now
they should understand other people's
but at the age of 5, 10 years away is an absolute lifetime. Children haven't got the emotional ability really to deal with it. You know, you get parents who are very angry because if their children are disabused of the notion of Father Christmas or the Tooth Fairy, and at the same time we're giving them very adult concepts.
However, Peter, you make a very good point that a child is not born with prejudice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's learned behaviour, and we know that where schools do address sex and relationships, that the level of understanding goes up, the level of bullying goes down, that makes for a more harmonious school. Just to give you one example, a neighbour of mine has a 6-year-old girl. And I was there at their flat one day, watching TV, and it was a soap opera, and it had 2 men kissing. And the little girl, aged 6, said to her mum, "Oh, isn't that sweet? They're in love." She understood love is love.
What would you have said to a child of this equivalent age watching that scene? What would you have said?
It depends what the response would be. So if a child of mine saw two men kissing, I would just ignore it unless the child asked me about it. You know, I wouldn't make a big deal out of it either way. And you know, I think actually some people, I know Peter will disagree with me, but some people won't like the idea of two men or two women kissing, and it doesn't actually mean that they're homophobic, that they hate gay people. It's just actually, you know, it's
but they would then
an
pass
intuitive...
but they would then pass that judgment, those feelings, that impression to their children.
Not necessarily.
Surely, where a school wouldn't.
No, not necessarily. I think we're all projecting here. You know, we're all quite capable of seeing things on the television and without necessarily passing on our feelings to our children. You know, if someone's made to feel uncomfortable by two people kissing, then they're allowed to feel that uncomfortable. What they, you know, shouldn't be doing is trying to necessarily impose and force value judgments on others. But, you know, so what? Some people don't like seeing that, and that's, you know, we all have our boundaries, and you're trying to say that this is OK.
The aim of these lessons is pure. It's to look after the sexual, emotional and mental health of young people. We want to cut the level of teenage pregnancies and abortions, reduce the levels of sexual infections, stop abusive relationships. That's what these lessons are all about.
In a continually complicated world as well, as people find out whatever their sexuality or bent is. I have to share a story with you. When I was studying O-level science, right? OK, it was 1974 was the year. But we got these very smart packs from Nuffield Science, right?
I remember those.
And there was, Unit 1 was physics, Unit 2 was chemistry, Unit 3 was biology. And within a beautiful plastic pack, and we thought, this is amazing. We were third-year pupils. This was wonderful. And the teachers came around and they would go through everybody's pack and take away one page from the biology section. And that page was of a naked man and a naked woman. And we weren't allowed to see...
That was at a Catholic school being taught by...
Absolutely
priests.
right. So, I mean, therefore you think... I mean, thank goodness we have come
moved on
a certain way. Is this not just the equivalent of me in 1974, and by next year everybody will take it all for granted?
No, because I think as well, what's being missed out here as well is the content of some of these lessons, OK? So, you know, it's not just LGB, but it's the T, and there are a lot of parents who are very uncomfortable with the transgender agenda, and that isn't just, you know, religious parents, but that's also, you know, feminists. I've spoken to lesbians who are very, very concerned, because actually you are indoctrinating children in the same way as you might bulk at a Catholic...
Is it indoctrination?
No, it's not indoctrination. These lessons are not telling kids what to do. They're explain to kids how to be safe, how to protect themselves and any partner they may eventually have.
But the main
and
thing
to be
is
understanding of different...
You're not going to have a say in this. That's your main objection. You're not...
Well, you know, this is it. The point is that, you know, as I was talking about the kind of trans ideology, and this is the idea. Children are being taught to uncritically accept that you can be born in the wrong body. And along with that, a load of, you know, specious and outdated gender stereotypes. That, you know, if a boy likes putting on a dress, you know, he's a girl. That's a girl's thing to do. And if a boy, you know, and if a girl likes sort of, I don't know, climbing trees, playing with trains, then that's very much, you know, a boy's thing to do. You know, it's impossible to teach this idea of gender ideology without resorting to stereotypes. You know, and we talk about keeping children safe. I don't think it's particularly safe to be introducing very young children to, you know, sexual ideas.
I'm sure.
Quick last word to you. Is it dangerous to be teaching
I'm
children
sure
this?
that every caring parent would want their child to get information to stop them getting pregnant, ending up with an abortion, to stop sexual infections.
They get that
It's all about the health and welfare
Guys,
of
got to
young
leave
people.
it there. Thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.